Hello, friends. What I am about to tell you is the real story of my work in a psychiatric hospital. Everything I have written is true. It was a beautiful institution with different names. I worked there for about 5 years. In the 90s, it was the height of drug addiction. We had addicts from 12 to 90 years old. Sometimes whole family gangs. Gypsy families are no surprise to anyone. First of all, the patient is taken to the emergency room. The patient is interviewed if they can talk. Their weight, height, temperature, and blood pressure are measured, and then they are sent to a creepy-looking room, a bathroom. There they are washed like homeless people. A very unpleasant process, of course. The patient is able to walk. Someone from the department to which he was assigned comes to get him. From this point on, the idea of a hospital begins to change to that of a prison. Long corridors, lots of doors, bars. Upon arrival in the ward, there is the procedure of searching, probing for stitches, and, of course, looking in the ass. The women look elsewhere. We make them squat naked in the hallway, where the patient is exposed to the entire ward. And from that point on, no one can go outside on their own accord, not even to smoke or go to the bathroom. Are you outraged? Well, calm down. If they're not thoroughly examined, they may have an unimaginable amount of drugs on them, and we'll be responsible for several deaths by overdose. Just like in prison, we have a lot of people who are in treatment far from the first time. Do you think that if an addict enters a hospital of his own free will, he is fighting his disease? Well, no. Addicts go into that institution of their own free will just to get cured. When withdrawal is over, the addict will take small doses again for relatively little money. When he takes a big dose again, he will come to us again, if he doesn't die before then. That's why we don't take a new addict to regular room. We take him to a special room, a menagerie, intensive care ward. There's a special room there. We have to be there 24 hours a day with at least 2 people. The client is stripped naked, placed on a mattress, given 2 sheets. Pillows are forbidden. To the bathroom, only with an attendant. Smoking is prohibited. Eating directly in bunks. We feed bedridden and bound people ourselves, sometimes by force. Why such strictness and constant control? When an alcoholic quits drinking after a long binge, a few days later an insane state comes. We call it squirrels. Not always, but as a rule. And we sit and wait. And we always wait. The room is big, with 20 beds, and it's always overcrowded. And each bed has its own concert. One bed had gypsies and dogs. Another quietly knocked on the radiator, kicking out devils. A third climbed on the window bars and jumped down, screaming the souls of dead children are flying this way. God forbid you should miss the arrival of the squirrel. Then you... Doctor, you have a hummingbird on your shoulder. Yeah, okay, but it's kind of like a sparrow. You're starting to lose your mind. The night is the hardest time. All addicts, without exception, become active. Who knows what they are up to? The person on duty's eyes slip and they fall asleep screaming. And at this time, somehow, a very skinny junkie breaks free. And skinny, shaking, insane, he climbs up the bars again, climbs through the little hole and flies out of the fourth floor. In the apple orchard, under the windows of the narcology ward, lies a corpse. There are no scratches or fractures on him. His head is intact, except that inside there are remnants of his liver, as the autopsy will tell you later. They take him back to where he wanted to escape, through the same concrete passages, where every crevice is covered with bars, through the corridors of the pass-through wards, where they shake their heads and forget, and then the locals go back to their old ways. It is too hot, dangerous to leave in the warmth the body of a man who has already begun to rot in life. He is left in one of the stairwells, where until morning he will look with uncovered eyes at the crumbling whitewashed ceiling, scaring the passing nurses with his sight. There is another corpse waiting in the women's ward, but it is still alive. She has been lying in the ward for months, completely insane, exhausted. From lying there for so long, she develops severe bed sores that turn into pus holes. After a couple of hours, she dies. We get in the car, where the junkie's body has already been loaded. We drive to the morgue. We dump the corpse from the stretcher on a concrete shelf. There's the sound of a board falling from the ceiling. Before we get to the dispensary, we hear the doctor on duty screaming. An unpleasant-looking alcoholic girl arrives with a dirty cast on her arm. When was the cast made? I don't remember. About 2 years, maybe. The doctor takes the cast off. Worms fall out of it. The arm is rotten. Remember Jennifer? She was discharged a week ago from the women's ward. We do. Died of an overdose on the highway. She wasn't even 15 years old. Back to our room. Across the men's ward, a convoy of women come to us for lunch. We have to keep a close eye on them. They may be planning an escape. Most escape attempts happen on the way to the canteen. In shorts and a t-shirt. In winter, they don't care. They push the doctors in white coats and run away. You have to catch them. Passers-by never help. And God forbid if they don't fight back when they get caught. It's like a prison here. They can be dangerous. They usually have guns they've made out of cutlery. They used to allow visits. Now they don't. Too many opportunities to pass drugs. One girl kissed her boyfriend and passed heroin through her mouth. And this is far from an isolated incident. Do patients get beaten up? It happens, but never for no reason. More often in self-defense. You can't trust anyone. No one at all. Ever. You can't believe the stories about the unhappy mother who hasn't seen her son in years. Chances are this mother brought drugs to her son. The most common punishment is a transfer from the general ward back to the ICU and all that goes along with it. The right medications, no parcels, notes, tobacco, etc. When the patient in the ICU finally sobers up and moves away from the whiteout, he is transferred to the general regimen. The wards, like most psychiatric hospitals, have no doors. The lights are never turned off. All attempts to drape a lamp with a newspaper are severely punished. You can ask for hot water. You can go to lunch, which is already an event after weeks of constantly lying in the same room. You can go to the bathroom on your own, smoke, and wear clothes. The women are not allowed to wear makeup, but they are content to try to take care of themselves. Like the prison stories, there are similar mores here. And many of our guests have been through prison. The currency is the same as in prison: tea, cigarettes, sugar, and candy. This is what you pay for all services. To redeem the line to wash the floors, patients have to wash their own rooms, to wash something for someone, and so on. About the food. They eat non-stop and everything. They are exhausted by all their hunger strikes. Addicts eat even more, especially sweets, because the affected liver requires glucose. Now I remember a girl of about 25, from a well-to-do family, well-educated, started working in the village library. On a dull winter evening, her boyfriend came to her, brought her an incomprehensible powder from town, and treated the lady. The lady refused at first, but succumbed to her entreaties. After a while, the young man left her lover, and she stayed to finish her business. During closing time, 2 school children came in, either to drop off or to pick up books. Anyway, the young librarian was under the influence of drugs, and in the morning they allegedly found the bodies of 2 children. Why allegedly? Because they had been smashed with a hammer. After visiting all the hospitals, including ours, the girl was declared insane and sent to Detroit, a psychiatric hospital for criminals. A place far scarier than all the prisons and mental institutions put together. And such crimes are far from isolated, and suicides are the norm. I am still amazed when I see the rate of degradation of drug addicts. 6 months ago, I saw a girl who was being treated for drug addiction, with a good figure and only slight nervousness. Now there's an elderly woman in front of me. The staff suffers greatly from the variety of animals in the wards. Often they bring home lice, cockroaches, and bedbugs. Regarding the theft in the wards, I was a witness. We had a very fat woman who always had gingerbread and cigarettes. The fat woman liked gossip and fight scenes, so the junkies put up a fight. 2 of them clawed at each other's hair. The other 2 under the bunks got to the nightstand and stole all the gingerbread. I saw the whole thing in person. Sometimes stealing is just funny. A young junkie washed her panties and hung them on the radiator. In the morning, she didn't find them and raised a scandal. Not getting justice, she personally went up to her neighbors and pulled up their skirts, trying to find their panties. And what do you think? She found them on the body of an 80-year-old woman. We laughed for a long time. The victim laughed the loudest. Now I look at all these young men with horror. Once daring boys who had their own gang, crying, sitting on a stinking bunk, left all alone, in nothing but their underpants, with wild withdrawal and a future sentence. And only parents who did not share the interests of their children supported such unfortunates. No one will love you as much. No one will take care of you the way your parents did. Believe me, I've seen it 1,000 times. These kids were waiting for loved ones, friends, patrons, but only their parents came to the rescue. I've also met kids who were handicapped from birth. They were put on a needle for some reason, and the whole neighborhood laughed at the stupid kid. The only ones I truly felt sorry for. The fates of all the patients usually followed 3 scenarios. Left unemployed. My father started a business of sorts. The business didn't work out. He began to drink. He drank, gradually forgetting about debts, family. By the way, this is how most women get drunk. After realizing that she does not need scandals, after trying medications and clinics, the wife just sits down next to her husband and begins to drink with him. Initially, it was a dysfunctional family. Everyone drinks and takes drugs. There is no system. Everything is chaotic. It's a happy family, maybe even well off, maybe even rich, curious. They want to try, they want new experiences, they want to be brave. They have money for the first doses, then they steal from home, then their parents notice. They find out, they treat them in narcology. They say there are no ex-addicts. It's true. There are a few who have managed to cope with it. Are you young and want to dance at the disco all night long? Are you a sensual, creative girl who wants to push the boundaries of her mind? Are you a shy guy and only substances give you courage? Are you just curious and think everything in life should be tried? Well, you're welcome. One more time. I worked in a hospital for 5 years. That was enough experience to last me a lifetime. There's still a long way to go, but I'll remember those tortured faces for the rest of my life. This is not the place where you should end your existence. Live and be happy. There are many moments in the world that are much more vivid experiences than drugs.